Shut up, compressor. Hey everyone, Matt here with Duke's Models, coming to you with the final installment of the P-47M build log. This one, there is no building happening because the thing is done. Finally, I started this thing back in December, and it's now April, and the world is falling apart, and at least the jug is done. So in this, I kind of want to wrap up the build experience and kind of my feelings coming back to the Tamiya kit after many years, close to a decade, much more experience under my belt, all that kind of stuff. And also I want to touch on sort of the initial theory behind building this kit and kind of starting the B-17 in the first place, but we'll get to that. So overall, I have to say I really enjoyed working on Fireball. I'm not going to hold it up too much because canopy is not glued on and I don't want it to fall off and create problems. Overall, I really enjoyed it. This is a scheme that I have honestly been chasing for pretty much a decade. The 63rd Fighter Squadron M's, I think, have probably the most striking allied camouflage of the war, the blue and blue, which makes honestly no damn sense. I don't know why they even have it. They were flying from England. They weren't flying from a forward operating base in Belgium or something like that, where they had to worry about the Luftwaffe flying over and hitting the hitting the airstrip, which is why a lot of the 9th Air Force squadrons and fighter groups kept camouflage or added camouflage back on. Basically, lessons from the Mediterranean. The 56 Fighter Group M's, I don't know why. I mean, they're flying from England. They're not encountering the Luftwaffe over the channel. I don't know why they're camouflaged, and I don't know why the 63rd was like, let's do blue. The only rational explanation I can come up with is they thought it looked cool, which I do too. Fireball, the big ass fireball on the cowl, is a great piece of nose art, and it was a fun challenge to recreate as a mask for sure. So overall, in terms of chasing the scheme and chasing the actual aircraft and all that, I had a lot of fun doing that, and I'm glad that I finally have it behind me because it's been, I guess, sort of a white whale of mine for a while. So, yay! Now, the Tamiya kit itself, it's still a great kit, don't get me wrong. It still goes together very well. However, I will say, having been through many more builds in several years and experiencing highs and lows along that time, it is not the superlative kit that I remember. It has a lot of really great things going on. The fit of the wings, the fit of the cowl onto the fuselage. The propellers are great. The fit of the blast tubes into the gun fairings is about as good as you can expect. The landing gear struts fit phenomenally well. The drill press was a great investment for the wheels to get them to fit onto the struts well. So yeah, a lot of really good things. It still has its drawbacks though. So let's see if I can list them all from memory here. The engine, the late crankcase cover that goes onto the M's R2800 has no provision whatsoever for ignition wires. None. There's not even an ignition ring. So that is a fun thing to add, and for a superlative kit in 48, that is something I would expect to at least be a hint of that. The windscreen fit, not great. I didn't even notice it when I built one of the P-47 bubble tops a decade ago, mainly because I guess I wasn't as discerning back then, and so I just glued it in and was like, oh, here we go. And when I go back and look at photos of Hairless Joe now, I can see that ridge between the windscreen and the fuselage. So that was present on this as well. The underside where the centerline tank fits, those anti-sway braces fit like shit. Just terrible. Not great. And the dorsal spine, basically the entire piece of the upper fuselage behind the canopy, the fit was not phenomenal, and the fact that it falls along a very prominent panel line, not cool. It's still not as bad as it is on the trumpeter bubble tops, where the fit is just atrocious, and there's nastiness to clean up, and you're going to be rescribing no matter what you do. This isn't that bad, but it's like, come on, guys. So those are my primary frustrations, along with things like in 2020, I want a hint of rivet detail. I think the gun fairings could have fit a little bit better, but overall, it's a great kit still. And then in terms of the scheme, it had a couple of challenges that I think were interesting to overcome. So first of all, color selection. I think the sort of dark blue mix, kind of an insignia blue, desaturated a little bit, lightened a little bit for, I guess, taste, because there aren't really good color photos of the 63rd jugs. There's like a couple, but they're very contrasty. I think that was the right way to go, and I think the PRU blue faded out or lightened to a much lighter blue matches tonally what few colored photos there actually are. So I'm happy with my camo choices. The one thing that I found interesting and frustrating with this kit, or the scheme, I should say, is my preferred order of painting the insignias and things like that was a little bit off. And so when I did the Corsair and the Thunderbolt late last year, or I guess all of last year, something that I discovered worked really well was painting those things first and then masking them and not having to worry about them again. With this, it wasn't really possible because of the bare metal involved and because of the weird, overlap of insignias onto camo and bare metal and things. So it was a bit more of a mess. But that definitely led me into a lot more cleanup and repair on the fuselage sides than I was anticipating. I think my next build will not be blue. After the Corsair in this, I'm kind of sick of weathering over dark blue. It's a beast. But yeah, overall, glad I did it. Happy with the build, and look forward to putting it on my shelf. I will say there are a couple areas where I think it could have been better and where I could have done better. I think the paintwork, even though it looks great in photos, there are a couple areas where it's not quite up to what I want. I'm not quite entirely happy with the weathering over the bare metal. And some of the actual build process stuff was a bit messier than I would like. The dorsal fillet, the tail fillet, the fit on that was really janky. The gun fairings, not as janky as the big trumpeter kit, but still could have been better. I could have done a better job cleaning it up. But overall, I'm satisfied. I think it was a fun one to build for sure. And I can't rule out trying to tackle this scheme again, maybe in 32nd one day. And that pretty much brings me back around to the decision to build a 1/48th P-47 years after swearing off of 1/48 scale for World War II props. The original thinking behind it, if I'm remembering correctly, was 1/32 is big, 1/32 takes a long time. The amount of work that would have to be invested in, say, a trumpeter P-47 to convert it to an M and make it build the way I want was substantial. And so my theory was 1/48 scale, there's already a good kit. Maybe I could build it faster, kind of keep momentum going, not run out of fucks halfway through. And sure enough, I did build it. But let's kind of look at the tail of the tape here. So last year I built a trumpeter Razorback. And I started in February, and I finished in July, so 5 months. During that time, I was also building a Tamiya Corsair, a 1/32 Tamiya Corsair. And I also started on a Tamiya Mustang in that same time period. So 2 other kits on the go, and I still got that jug done in 5 months. I've been working on this thing since December, and it's now April. So 4 months, I guess, because it's still kind of mid-April. not that much difference. Granted, I did seem to go back over my footsteps several times in several areas on this kit. So who knows? Maybe if I was trying to do this in 1/32, it would have taken 7 months. It's hard to tell. But maybe just where I'm at as a modeler these days. Those days of the 20-day builds don't seem to be in the cards anymore. So where does that leave me? I don't know. I don't plan to avoid 148 scale for World War II. That's for sure. I've got a few kits that I really want to do, including Tamiya's P-38. But it also doesn't mean that I'm walking away from 1/32 scale at all, because I'm just not seeing the time savings or any of that kind of stuff. And honestly, 148 scale still feels very cramped in some ways. And when you look at certain aspects of the kit, details that should be there, like the ignition ring on the engine, that aren't, just frustrate. And recreating those details in 148 scale is a task. It is definitely a task. And at some point in a lot of areas on this kit, the antennas, for example, or some of the details of the landing gear, you just kind of have to throw your hands up and accept it, unless you want to get really, really, really crazy with scratch building, which was not the intent of going to 148 scale. So, yeah, I would call it a half successful experiment. I built the kit, I had fun doing it, and I'm kind of probably going to hop scales from here on out, just depending on where the wind takes me. So, with that, what is next on the bench? To be honest, I have no idea right now. I had a couple of things that I'd planned to try to get together in time for nationals, but honestly, with coronavirus out there, I'd be shocked if nationals happens. And even if it does, fuck, I'm not going to a large national gathering in July when this shit's still gonna be floating around. So that kind of blows my plans for the summer out of the water, to be honest. And stuff that I was planning to tackle, I don't know if I want to anymore, because it was kind of like, I want to tackle that. I decided that back in March or back in late February. And here it is a few months later. And I don't know if the motivation's quite there. So yeah, I think for now I'm going to edit some videos because I'm behind, take a few photos, clean up the bench, kind of let my options marinate for a few days, and honestly probably end up starting something tomorrow. So that is that. Thank you for following along with this really, really much longer than I intended build log, and keep watching, keep commenting, subscribe, all that fun stuff, and check you later.